Hi, Wendy.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are
Welcome to the
you?
show. I'm good.
Welcome to
Yeah.
the show.
Just another beautiful little. Is it Wednesday? It's Tuesday.
No,
Tuesday. It's
it's
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's
Oh
Tuesday.
my
It's not
gosh.
Wednesday.
You
It's
had me
like
freaking out for a second.
close to hump day, but not quite there. So can't get that excited
Not
just yet.
quite there.
Yeah. So at the beginning of every episode, I like to kind of hand the microphone over to the guest and learn a little bit more about them. Anybody who hasn't seen your stuff, I mean, I want to hear about your background in bodybuilding, how you made it in there, how you made it to Olympia, like what your journey has been, and really just how it started.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, it goes far back. I actually was I used to be a gymnast and a track athlete, and I was in 2008. I was really serious. I had been doing track for a long time, college, professionally, and then in 2008 I was training for the Olympic trials in the 800 meters.
Wow. Oh,
And
wow.
in about a month and a half before the trials, I got a stress fracture in my foot, and I had just started dating my now husband. We were only dating for like a month, and he was a bodybuilder, and I'm like, I had no idea about bodybuilding. It was just kind of a weird thing for me. But when I found out that I got a stress fracture in my foot, I was so bummed out and was so disappointed. And everybody at the gym that he was training at was like, you know what, you got to just like put her in a show. I've been like athletic my whole life. I've One thing about me is I've never really made like a huge transformation. Like I've progressively like gained a little bit of muscle over time,
Mhm.
but I haven't really, I'm not really one of those people that have like made like this crazy huge
Sure.
transformation. I like just stepped on stage after barely training, and I really liked it. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I did really well. I won the overall on my first show, and I really liked it. And that was in 2008.
Wow. Good for you.
So yeah, and that
Yeah. And you've never had a crazy transformation because you come from a background in sports. You've never allowed yourself to be out of shape.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just an athlete,
Yeah.
doing something that I thought was just passing the time until I got back to track. But I'm just like I have a very obsessive personality. When I find that I can pursue something and be good at it, I'm like, my body's pretty beat up from track. So what did I decide to do when my foot healed is do fitness.
There you go.
After my foot was healed, I decided to do fitness. And so at the
But
time
you found fitness out of necessity from the injury. Is that
I
kind of
did
correct? Is
well,
that what?
fitness routine is like a gymnastics routine. So that was kind of well, I'll that was kind of a little bit probably not the best choice since I was already getting injured so much.
Mhm.
But at the time I had just gotten a job. I was a fitness director at Stanford University. And that was awesome. I oversaw all the facilities on campus, the wellness program for the employees,
That's so
and
cool.
it was like a dream job, right? And the assistant gymnastics coach, he said, "Oh, I'll help you, train for this fitness competition that you're getting ready for." So I would go there, and like 4 days a week, the assistant coach was like training me. It
Nice.
was like it was just such a great setup for me. So I did fitness, and I won.
And he did this, I would assume, because he
He
saw some very real potential. You,
Yes.
you obviously your genetics are very good. You are athletic. He probably knew that you could take this further than most.
Yeah, he was really generous with his time, and it was really cool because we were kind of a tight knit community in the athletics department. So like, he'd come over to the gym, and like I'd help him with his workouts, and like it was like a really cool like tight knit group that we had in the athletic department at Stanford. I actually was helped with the football team when Harbaugh was coaching.
Oh, sick. Oh,
You
that's
would know
awesome.
about that.
Did you
Um,
do the strength training programs
Um,
for the?
the I was on the staff as a strength and conditioning coach. However, I coordinated the yoga and the cycling that the
Sick.
players want that the coach wanted the players to do. So technically, I was on the staff as a strength and conditioning coach, but for
How did the
you know,
players take to that? I find that a lot
uh,
of, at least
well,
back in the day, some of the old school athletes weren't as psyched about doing yoga, mobility work.
they had fun.
They had fun. Yeah,
They
well,
had a good time.
you were the instructor, so that's great.
They had a good time.
That
Yeah.
helps.
So, but anyway, I did fitness, and I won. I did really well. And but then my body was kind of beat up. So then I that was still in 2000, that was 2008, 2009. And then I decided, I want to turn pro, And so I competed in a few national shows, and then finally in 2011 I won the overall at the USA Championships in figure. And back then there was not, like, bikini had just started. There were not a lot of divisions, men's physique. When I first did my first show, it was just men's bodybuilding, women's bodybuilding, figure, and then some shows had fitness.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, there wasn't a lot of people say, what did you start with? And I'm like, well, the only thing I could have started with,
Yeah.
I didn't want to start with bodybuilding.
Yeah. Open
So
division would be a little bit hard. You're
yeah,
not nearly, I would imagine the women that win that are enormous.
I didn't really want to go there
Go that
either.
way. Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
I do, yes.
I just never have. I've just believe, and this is why I've lasted a long time. I'm just very much into like health and fitness, and irony of that when the sport that I'm competing in. But I just kept going with it, and I qualified for my first Olympia in 2014,
Mhm.
and then I just competed in my 8th Olympia.
Wow.
So it's
That's
been a long
outstanding.
road.
So
Yeah.
so you've done 8 Olympias.
Yes.
How has been the placement during all of that? Like, how do you typically fare?
My best placing was 13th, I
Mhm.
believe. So
How many people are in your division? I mean, give or take.
I mean, it's all the best in the world. So it's like they only take like, it's usually like the top like 25 in the world.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You have to win a pro show
You have to, yeah, I was about to say, you
in
have to have
order to
your card, you
qualify.
have to qualify,
So
and then,
basically, like, everyone who competes wants to be on the Olympia stage, And then at any given pro show, there may be anywhere from like 30 to 40 girls, depending on the show.
Mhm.
And then, you have to win that show. And then the winner of each pro show, basically converges at the Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all over the world. So it's intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you would never make the transition toward doing the open. It isn't in the cards for you.
Open
Well,
bodybuilding?
yeah, open bodybuilding.
Oh God, I wouldn't be able to unless I wanted to go a direction I don't want to go.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because the difference in divisions
I knew
between,
it. I knew it.
well, the difference between the divisions in bodybuilding is very
Yeah.
important. I was talking, you interviewed Dennis. I was talking about this with
Yeah.
him. Where you compete is going to directly correlate to the drugs you must take in order to even be a competitor.
Yeah.
And being in the open, that's
Yeah.
almost a silent understanding amongst everybody that you must be on
Yeah.
copious anabolics
Yeah.
in order to even get on that stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I just know that I'd get reamed if I like opened up too much about this, but I'll just say this. I will say that there's a reason I have longevity, and I could pretty much go as long as I want,
Sure.
because, I just haven't gone there.
Sure.
You know?
Interesting you say you would get reamed. It seemed, because a lot of times today, it seems
Okay.
like there's a lot of,
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems like there's a lot of transparency around this
Yeah.
subject matter amongst the pros, amongst everybody. I mean, just about everybody accepts the barrier to entry in order to be in professional bodybuilding. It doesn't seem like it carries the taboo or the stigma that it did from, even 5-10 years ago.
You're right about that, but if you say that you don't do anything, then people are going to either they're either going to say that you're lying, or you think that you're better than everybody, or you're making an excuse. So like for me, I just have always kind of kept myself pretty private. I like let the results do the talking, just the longevity.
Who's that guy who goes around the Olympia and sticks the microphone in your face?
Oh God.
What's his name?
Oh,
Kenny
God.
something.
Kenny KO.
His entire thing is he
If
runs up to strangers and sticks the microphone in their face.
Yeah.
Okay,
please don't use this soundbite, but if I saw him, I would run. I don't want to go. I just don't. I don't know. I think, like I said, I think that when you see somebody last a long time,
Mhm.
healthy and strong, you know that they're doing something right.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter what it is, but that something is going right
Sure.
for them. But unfortunately, what you see a lot of times is people don't last that long. There's a window of kind of opportunity for most people when they enter the sport and they go a certain direction with it. Then it's like someone might peak and do really, really well, but it's like very short-lived. It's very cute. So I think, when somebody lasts a long time, that there's something going right behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my brother runs a hormone optimization clinic.
Yeah.
I've been on TRT for the last 8.5 years. I don't particularly understand the natty or not
I know
conversation all that
Right.
much,
Yeah.
because I like I said, I've been on it for 8.5 years. I feel
Right.
amazing. My
Yeah.
levels are great.
Yeah.
What do you do as far as supplementation, if anything at all?
Well, I haven't gone there yet, but I'm definitely open to it if it makes me if I feel like it would help me live longer and healthier.
Oh yeah.
I just haven't really I haven't gotten to a point in my life right yet,
Hmm.
age-wise or whatever, where I have not responded really well to everything that I do.
Hmm.
I know that
Yeah.
there's going to be that time where my body is like fighting against
How
me
old are
and
you?
um how old do you think I am?
I think you're 37.
You're close.
Am I close?
You're really close. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm close.
You're just a few years off, but
Okay.
you're close.
Yeah, good for you. Nice. Yeah, it's yeah. To me, I don't even associate an age with which doing hormone
Yeah.
optimization is right or
No, me
wrong. There
neither.
are we had the CEO of Kaisertrax. Is that
Well,
Shaolin's just had
Yeah,
Shaolin on
Kaiser
Kaisertrax.
tracks.
well,
Kaisertrax, the CEO and creator, he was on
yeah,
here last week,
Mhm.
and we were talking
yeah.
about this, and we were talking about the age with which people, start TRT or go to the
Well,
clinic or start looking into blood work in any way, and it's getting younger and younger, and
right.
that's from a lot of environmental factors more than anything else.
And you know what? Let me just say, I actually think that tapping the table.
Hmm.
I actually think that when I say my body still responds really well to everything, that's the thing. And I think that when people, start things too early, right? Whatever your endogenous production of hormones you're going to suppress that. So you don't want to introduce something exogenous when your body's naturally producing things optimally.
Hmm.
And so that's where I'm at, and I think that, if you can introduce something that offsets something that is already suppressed in your body, maybe you're not doing very well, that like that I get, because now you're talking about longevity, you're talking about wanting to be healthier, stronger, live longer. That's a totally different subject,
Hmm.
so I guess that's the thing. And what you see, unfortunately, is people are doing things before they are, suppressed
Hmm.
with their endogenous production of hormones. So
Yeah.
that can lead to dependency, can lead to a whole slew of issues,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So women in bodybuilding,
Yeah.
speaking as somebody who's been in it as long as you have,
Yeah.
what have you found to be both positive and negative stereotypes associated with being so enthralled in the women in the category of women's bodybuilding?
Yeah. So I'm not in bodybuilding. I am in figure, but I do think that it's an umbrella that you could, probably toss
The
around pretty. Yeah, yeah,
entire thing.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I have found myself in a little bit of an echo chamber after being in it for so long. And I think that's sort of by choice. And I think it's my protective mechanism. I think when you do something that you love and you're passionate about for long enough, you eventually just tune out the noise and like things that you don't want to pay attention to, because you have to do that if you want to be successful at something. You're concerned about that. But set that aside. When I did care, when I was first getting started and I really did care about what people thought, and it affected me. I definitely was in an era back in 2008, 2009, where, if you had muscle as a female, you were, oh my gosh, you look manly. This sounds so trite. I mean, you've probably heard it a million times.
Hmm.
Guys are, but as soon as social media took off, it was crazy. All of a sudden, it was like, the feedback loops started changing. You saw men responding positively to muscular women, and all of a sudden, I want that too. And it was cool because it started becoming so much more socially accepted. People started wanting to jump on the bandwagon. And of course, you still have the negativity, but I actually see more negativity from women than from men, to be honest.
Women toward female bodybuilders.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Why do you think that is? Interesting.
I There are a lot of reasons. I mean, I think that one is, I think with any of us, when we're not at the best version of ourselves, or we maybe feel a certain type of way about ourselves, I think everything is a deflection. I think we internalize things that we're observing. And I do think that if you don't feel the best about yourself, I genuinely feel like if you're the best version of yourself and you're happy with yourself, you're going to tend to be more positive towards other people. You're going to tend to see success and goodness in other people more. When you feel depressed and negative and maybe insecure, you're going to be irritated when you see, and I think we've all experienced this before. I
Sure.
mean, no one is immune to this. I mean, we've all been not the best version of ourselves, felt a little bit bad about ourselves, and you tend to, if you can recognize it, that's good.
Hmm.
I've always recognized it, and I've been this way too, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting so negative. It's because I'm not my best version of myself. I don't feel the best about myself right now,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So I think that's a huge part of it, honestly,
Yeah.
I had a woman actually one time. This is a kind of a common type of backhanded compliment that you get from a woman in a locker room. But
Those come a lot.
I remember that there was a woman, I'm not even kidding you. She said, "Oh my gosh, I just want you to know, I think that your body is so beautiful. You look so amazing, but oh my gosh, my husband would never want me to look like that. I just want you to know that I think that it's beautiful, but like my husband, he would never want me to look like that. But I think it's beautiful." And I'm like, "Well,
Thank you.
I don't
I think
I'm like, I don't
I'm
know.
sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. So you don't know, like that kind of stuff is weird sometimes because if you say anything mean back or
Hmm.
you say something that's not positive back, you're always a bad person.
Hmm.
So that's always a challenge,
Yeah,
when you go through and you feel like you're at the best version of yourself, and you feel really confident in yourself, and you work really hard on your body, and you feel like you're looking pretty good. I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges is trying to make sure that people don't think that you're, snobby or mean person or rude or whatever, because like the littlest thing that you say that they think is wrong or whatever, you're going to be the bad guy.
of
So you got to
course.
be so on top of your image and your persona and your, vibe,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely. It seems like, especially I think with the rise of the quote body positivity movement,
Yeah.
that fitness in general has been a little bit, I won't use the word attacked, but the unrealistic expectations that fitness sets is something you hear a lot these days, especially on social media. People complaining, in particular, I hear
Yeah.
women. I think I hear women talking about this a lot more, saying that this actress in this movie, it's not realistic. There's no way I could ever look like that. And yet, I encourage people watch Olympia. Like watch
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
it is very, it maybe not look like that, but you can look a heck of a lot closer than you do right now. Have you ever come across this subject matter? I mean, have you felt any backlash from people
Yeah.
about what it is that you've dedicated a large portion of your life to doing?
Man, the body positivity movement. That's an
Yeah.
interesting one, huh?
Funny little name they gave it because
It
it doesn't
is.
strike me as positive or
Okay. All right.
any of it.
Okay, let me unload a little bit on this topic. So, the body positivity movement started as a uh very well-spirited, well-intended objective, right?
Hmm.
I mean, think about it. I mean, if you put out a campaign about being positive about your body image, that is an amazing idea. I mean, anybody, trying to be positive about like whatever your body is a great message. However, I think it turned into negativity towards what people felt threatened by, right? So if you feel like you want to be positive about somebody who is, overweight or has something, going on here or here, it's like all of a sudden the bodies that you feel counter that, we've got to be negative towards those bodies
Yeah, they're
because
attacking me
they're
just by
attacking.
looking the way they do.
Right. And so I've always felt like the body positive movement, what it originated as, which is, the idea that you were positive about like everybody's different types of bodies, is great because there's all kinds of different beautiful bodies out there, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
bodies to celebrate. And I also think if somebody really is positive about their body, and like let's say someone's overweight and unhealthy, the positivity part of that is I care so much about myself that I'm going to love my body and I'm going to become healthier. And the positivity could be a good thing if it were directed at its original intention.
Mhm.
But yeah, it did kind of make a turn for the worse,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my goodness.
And
It's
then,
like anything else. It's like a big pendulum and it seems
yeah,
as though it's swung.
yeah,
Did you ever see and
yeah,
there's been a rise
yeah,
in plus size influencers
right.
where now they're like they're part of movements that
Yeah,
want to do things like allow a free double seat on an airplane or encourage
yeah,
reinforced toilet seats that won't rip off the wall and all this
right.
crazy stuff that you would never even think like, are you kidding me? That's a problem. But this body positivity movement has now led to, have you seen, there's a video of a YouTuber, see if you can find it. She's a plus size travel advocate. That's her thing. This is her whole
Yeah,
thing. She talks about traveling as a plus size person.
yeah, I've seen
You've
that.
seen that.
Yeah, yeah,
And she's talking about like these problems that she finds herself in all the time. Yet I mean anybody who states the obvious, like, no, this person is over 400 pounds. It's too much. It's too
right.
much.
Yeah,
That is the bigger problem here. It seems like that's no longer an option that anyone can
right.
address.
And I think that issue goes beyond just the body positive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
her.
and I mean that issue goes beyond the body positivity movement, because if you think about it, it's not just the fact that we're anyone would shame her for needing two plane seats, right?
Mm.
It's that it is infringing on other people's environments and other people's
Mhm.
enjoyment of whatever they're doing. So like when one person walks in the room and everybody else has to part the seas for that one person, regardless of what it is, that's where I think as a whole people tend to have a problem with that.
Yeah, you're not twice
And
as important because you're twice as
twice as
big. So I'm sorry that math is very, very blunt, but
I
that's essentially what this person is requesting. All these things she's
no,
asking
yeah,
for, you can do. You got to pay for it. You got to
yeah,
pay for two seats on the plane.
right,
You got to find a
yeah,
concrete lounge chair. You can't just get these things for
yeah,
free
yeah,
because you feel that you should.
yeah. And whenever I see somebody who's overweight going to the gym or whatever, I always applaud that,
Oh
because
heck yeah.
I know that it takes a lot more it takes a lot more courage to walk into an environment that you're uncomfortable in.
Mhm.
And whenever I see somebody, I go out of my way to try to make them feel comfortable or whatever, because I do think that I do understand the flip of that too. And I think that I have to, when you feel your best and you look your best. There's a difference between being motivated and motivational, right? People tend to be highly motivational when they're at the best version of themselves. You see this all the time. Competitors, they're like a week out and they're like, why doesn't everybody train this hard? Like, what's your excuse? And what are you doing? Get off your ass and da da da, right? But then you see the aftermath of after they do their show and they've eaten all the donuts and
Yeah.
they gain all the weight, and all of a sudden they're like bitter and like
Yeah.
negative feelings about the show and like ruin their health. And it's
I
like,
was robbed. I deserved it better. Like,
where
yeah.
were you? Where was that person? Like, so that person is the kind of person who somebody trying to get into the gym gets irritated by,
Yeah.
because that person is at the height of their motivational state, feeling the absolute best, and like trying to point the finger at everybody, going like, you need to be like, you need to do what I'm doing, because like, get off your butt. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like,
Hmm.
stages of change, like, take a sequence. There's a flow to like getting somebody from becoming aware and taking action and following through with something.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot for somebody when they haven't done it yet. And I have a lot of compassion, sensitivity for that. And that's where I think the body positivity movement, if done right, could actually be a great objective for that type of person, because you love yourself, you love your body so much that you're going to do something positive for it.
Hmm.
You're going to become healthy, and you're going to
Sometimes that
show
means, yeah, it
yourself
means
that you
change.
love yourself, that you love your body. You love your body. Like, do so.
But that's where the big disconnect happens
Yeah,
because the body positivity movement would say, I love my
right.
body so much, I will never change.
And I'm
All
going
of
to get two
you,
seats on the plane, and I'm going to,
exactly.
yeah,
All of you must change to me because
right.
I love myself the way,
And
which is also a
yeah,
lie. That is the other thing. I love myself on every
Yes.
bumper sticker. The truth of the matter
And
is,
it's not
if you're that
true.
big, that's not true.
It's not
You're
true.
not, you don't love yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you don't feel good. You don't feel, you wake up
I
in the
know.
morning, every time you eat, you're like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
I love myself,
Yeah.
therefore I must change. That's the
message.
disconnect.
I know.
Somebody who sees that and who is, you know, at that weight and at that stage in life, yes, you need to love yourself. You need to love
Yeah.
yourself so much that you face the harsh reality that you can no longer eat the way you are doing. You
Yeah.
cannot live the way you are living. You must change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too, though, because I think about somebody who goes from, you know, needing to lose a lot of weight, right, in order to be healthy. Uh, and then, you know, the bodybuilding world, which is the other extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a hard time saying, well, look at this population to gain your motivation. It's hard to explain, but I don't totally, and it's crazy. I know it's going to sound nuts because I do bodybuilding,
Right.
but I don't totally think that that's the right place to go for motivation for somebody who needs to lose a bunch of weight, you know, because I have seen people who've made a huge transformation and then they go to the extreme level of it, do a bodybuilding show,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're just priming yourself to have a major rebound and just like go back.
It's
Because
still an
it's
extreme.
it's still, you
Yeah.
know, we're kind of on one end or the other on that. So I have a hard time sorting through that sometimes.
I think that's very justified. I actually think if you really were to look at, you know, the term body dysmorphia,
Yeah.
I mean, I believe on both sides of that
Yeah.
spectrum could certainly qualify. I mean, bodybuilders, in
Yeah.
particular, bodybuilders in the open category,
Yeah.
a lot of them have what clinical diagnoses would say is
Yeah.
body dysmorphia. And I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think a lot of times if people do, it's hard for me not to feel anything but encouraged by somebody who goes from 400 pounds to stepping on stage.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Right.
But I hear what you're saying, and
Yeah.
that they still haven't figured out where the balance in life lies.
Some do.
Some do.
Some do. It is hard though, you know. It is. There's always going to be
I'm
outliers.
picturing like White Goodman from Dodgeball, like going. Like that's what I have in my head.
I mean, here's the thing: there's always outliers in anything that you talk about, right? I mean, you're gonna have those people who lose a bunch of weight, go on the stage and have a lot of success, and then carry on with it, right? But for the most part, you know, we are America in general, like just America. Just take America out of any other country. Our obesity rate is obviously astronomical,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Did you see that thing Mark Bell posted about the increase,
no.
the incremental increase in obesity over the last, I believe it was 11 years? See if you can go to his page and see. There's no audio, so we can actually play this.
Oh my god!
Scroll down a little bit. It's just a chart. It's a chart that's rising. Keep going. Keep going. I know it's on his page. I just keep going. Where is it? Come on, Mark. There you go. Right there. Watch this. So obviously you got the U.S. Now watch where's this? So how many years is this? Does it say? 1990 to 22. So over 32 years. Look at the United States. Look at it go.
Going up.
Going up, going up, going up. It's still going. And look at like France and Italy and Germany. France has actually done well. Germany has done well. Every single country plateaued over the last, call it right about the time you hit 2014. Most of the countries have plateaued or gone down. The United States is on. I know.
What an awesome graph.
Japan is great. Japan's doing awesome in this category.
Not doing bad at all. They are just.
But like,
it's like if France actually went down.
I know. They must have made a change. But what in the world? Yeah, the United States of America. I'm proud to be an American sometimes.
So, gosh, it's so interesting because we also have such a higher percentage of people with extreme levels of fitness too.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting conundrum, right?
Yeah, it's all here.
It's an odd dichotomy that we have going on here.
Olympia, we have more. I mean, we have more gyms available now than any country at any time in human history.
We have more Instagram celebrities. We have more gyms. We have.
Sometimes I wonder if the Instagram people are not helping, myself included.
Well,
Though,
you know.
It's
Do
funny.
you?
Sometimes I do have those thoughts in my head where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
is this really doing everything? But all it really does take is one person to like run up to you and be like, hey, listen,
Yeah.
I've watched your stuff for 10 years. You're like, really?
Can I
And
ask you a question?
yeah,
How do you
yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
How do you feel about social media? How do you feel about having to play the game of social media? I mean, it's a rough world out there.
Yeah. I
It's a battlefield, man.
in a very real sense, I think it depends on the perspective you have about your social media, like how you're wanting to
Sorry.
use it.
Murphy's Law.
How you're wanting. I'm sorry. That was great. That was very distracting. It really does depend on, I think, how you want to use it, what you're using it for, what's your
Mhm.
end goal. I mean, there have been times in my life where I've been real obsessive about it, where
Yeah.
I've had to delete it from my phone. I've had to intentionally. What I've noticed is that it's exactly like fitness and bodybuilding. You need to find the balance in
Yeah.
it. For me now, today, I have rules that I myself have placed in my life where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't click on the homepage. If I find myself doing it, I get
Yeah.
off immediately. I don't click that anymore. I designate to my virtual assistant. He does all my posting now. He interacts on our page.
Yeah.
I've delegated a lot of that away because I realized, okay, I don't think this is all that healthy for me
Yeah.
personally. But like we were kind of saying, all it takes is one person to run up to you and say that oh my gosh, your gym, by the way, it totally made it fun for me. I didn't
Yeah.
think fitness could be fun. I followed your page for 10 years. It's my favorite thing I watch every single day. You're like, seriously, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I can't believe that is true for you. But
Yeah.
if you get that, then I ultimately think that it's a good thing. I think that
Yeah.
just like every other tool in business, I think it's a really good resume. I
Yeah.
think it's something today that, frankly speaking, if you want to be relevant in your industry, you got to have. It's no longer kind of an option. I
Yeah.
think companies who try to survive without it can't,
Yeah.
frankly speaking. Like, I don't think you can survive without having one. And it's been a cornerstone of our business here for a very long time. It's the reason
Yeah.
why we do all the collaborations and this. I mean,
Yeah.
we're sitting here because of
Yeah.
social
I
media.
know. I communicate with you pretty much all on DMs.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So
Yeah.
so if you're using it the way you and I are using it
Mm.
to communicate, collaborate, and connect with other
Yeah.
people and have these types of conversations, hopefully help our audience. If they get one thing out of this whole
Yeah.
podcast and they take it with them for one day, that's great. That's all worth it. That's good for
Yeah.
me. But people are also getting clinically depressed, seeing lives that they feel like
I know.
don't equate to their reality.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, the body shaming and the bullying and all the stuff that I know is happening doesn't happen, to me, but it doesn't happen to me because I don't allow it to happen to me. And I'm 34.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not 17. It's a lot different for
Yeah.
people who are coming up. I will say this too. I think as a parent, if you allow your kid to have social media before they're 18, I think you're crazy. I would never do that.
Yeah, it does seem to be messing with the younger kids, you know. Do you remember, I think Instagram came out in like 2013, was it? Like
Yeah.
2013? I don't know. I didn't have an account until like 2014 or 15 or something like
Facebook
that.
came out look up when Facebook came out. My guess is that Facebook came
2006,
2007.
7,
I'm
6.
thinking
I'm
7.
gonna say
I'm guessing 7.
2006.
What year Facebook
Okay.
came on and what year? Haha, Wait,
Okay.
Goodman.
Okay. The reason I'm asking you
Yeah,
is
yeah.
because I remember when it first came out and the pie
2004.
2004, no
We were
way.
way off. But nobody had it for the first couple of
I
years.
know
That's
nobody
the thing.
cared.
Nobody cared.
It was
Nobody
like
knew about it.
it was like when someone said, I'm gonna Facebook you. It sounded like a something wrong. I'm gonna
Something weird.
Facebook you. I'm gonna Facebook
Yeah,
you.
why don't you
Like,
just call me? Because that's back when we called people.
sound
You're like,
weird.
call me. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Facebook
a
me.
Facebook
But I'm
you.
sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No.
What is the question?
Okay, so I remember like people were doing this weird thing where they were taking a picture of themselves and calling it a selfie.
Uh-huh.
And I remember the selfie, the pioneers of the selfies. And I remember going, who would do that? Like, who would take like a selfie? Like, and it was like this thing where people were like maybe had articles being written about it, like how, but what happened was the people who were the pioneers of the selfies and the booty shots and like all that kind of stuff, they were taking off. And all of a sudden there was this like social currency starting to form, you know, and then you saw the whole like shreds generation and like
Oh my
all those
gosh.
athletes, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is lucrative.
Yeah.
Like it's lucrative to take pictures of your butt and like to take
Who knew?
whoa.
Who knew? Everyone wants to see it.
I mean that wasn't my thing, but you know, I mean it was like
Oh, it was definitely my thing.
it was
It was my thing then, and
taking
it's
of
my thing
yourself.
now.
So taking pictures of your butt.
Oh, both. Taking pictures of my butt or seeing pictures of people's butts. It's great. You
Oh
never,
my
and
God.
anyone who says it's like, oh, I hate when I see a girl with a butt. It's like, you do?
No,
No,
I
you don't.
don't.
No one does. It never gets old. It's literally the currency that like
Oh
gets
my God.
stronger with age.
Yeah, no, it does. It became a currency, and people who were putting themselves out there like that, they were, you know, starting to get recognized by companies and making money off of it, and like in honest ways, not like in, you know,
Yeah, everybody thought it was.
it was gonna be a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting thing. However, you know, people started sharing more and sharing workout content and stuff like that, and that was kind of a novel thing right around like in the early like 2010s
Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
But then everybody started doing it, and that's what I wonder, like people like you and me who, you know, have been at it for a long time, you know, we're experts in fitness and exercise and nutrition, and because there's such a saturation of people sharing content, you don't have like the bottleneck that you once had, you know. So it's interesting. It's a interesting game to play because we have to constantly reinvent ourselves and figure out how we're going to, you know, repackage what we're doing in a way that will, you know, be the shiny object. And then you don't want to be the shiny object because it goes against, you know, what you believe in, but then you have to play the game. So it's a balancing act, you know, the integrity, the playing the game, like
Yeah.
how do you do it?
How do you do it together? That's a good, great question
Mm,
because it's a hard question. And it's definitely something that evolved over time for me
yeah.
because I definitely know how to
Yeah.
be the shiny object, but I wanted to make sure
Shiny object.
I wanted to make sure, especially very early on, that it never came across as a gimmick. I wanted, in the beginning, I didn't even want to, like, I didn't see myself as an influencer, as a coach online. I still don't really coach online. We're working on, you know, mobile app, but that's different. I wanted to be an actual coach. That's why I took the internship and I did the, you know, years of schooling and all that stuff. I wanted to be a strength coach working with actual people. So how do you do that and still get a lot of eyes, you know, online? Well, I'll credit my younger brother in this because he originally was one of the first marketing guys he graduated from TCU. He was green as they come, but he had a lot of really good ideas. And one of them he really brought to my attention was he's like, listen, you're like painting all these things and you're like this whole side of you that you're not showing anybody. Like you're keeping that totally separate. And I get why you would think that you should. I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't. You should be, every time you 3D print something and paint it, every single time you do, I don't care what you're doing, do it and show it and make it a part of the whole. So the more I did that, the more, and people gravitate toward that. I mean, when I painted that thing, there's more interaction on that than any like piece of equipment review or new training movement or any like that kind of stuff.
Is that an alien?
That's the Predator.
The Predator.
Did you ever see that with Arnold?
Yeah. Okay. I was like, that's what I was thinking it was, but I called it an alien.
That is such a cool. So that's from a company called Killer Kettlebell.
Yeah.
And I've collaborated with him a couple times with the kettlebell.
Yeah.
Perfect example. We're talking about kettlebell. So take a company like On It. I could do a collaboration with On It where they send me a kettlebell and I do some movements with it. I talk about the, you know, the way they made it, and that's cool. That's a wrap. That's the end of the content. Or I could get their kettlebell. I could paint it like Joe Rogan. I could cover it in fake mushrooms. I could make it into a weird, trippy, psychedelic art piece and then do exercises with it. Which one do you think is going to be better? And ultimately, I learned that if I could incorporate the other side, like the side I didn't show anybody, because frankly, I was a little timid about it. I was a little embarrassed, not embarrassed, but I was like, I don't know if people want to know that I played Warhammer for the first 12 years of my life, that I've been painting a lot longer than I've been doing push-ups, like that side of myself. I didn't see as a crossover with the gym and fitness. But once I realized that that's how now you become the shiny object, but you still have the reinforced background. You don't want to be and I know we're picking on this guy, he's not here to defend himself. I didn't want to be like that Kenny guy. I didn't want to be like let me find this little shtick that I plug a microphone on people. I embarrass them, and that's how I'm famous. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't.
He's so mean.
When we meet people like that all the time, we get caricatures that come in here constantly where they're talking like this, and then they'll be like, hey, do you mind if I take a video? I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then what's it? I'm like, oh my gosh. So this whole thing is just fake. You're out of your mind. Like, what's wrong with you? For me, and I think when people meet me too, they're like, oh, you just kind of operate this way, don't you? I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know how to be anybody other than just kind of what I am. Like, and that's great. If people like it, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If they don't, you can just unfollow. It's that easy. But because it's hard. You're right. I think a lot of times people can lean one way or the other a little too much. There's a lot of really good coaches out there that have no idea how to brand or to market or to. They don't know how to be the shiny object.
Yeah, you see the same script over and over again. And
buy my 7-week mesocycle training.
Oh my gosh,
here's my link. It's like, dude, no one is going to do that.
I know.
Nobody.
I know. Well, no, I do think, finding your own unique path to the success. You must have an artistic background. You did. What are you hiding from me? Why are we hiding things? What's going on?
Yes.
Or you don't want to share?
No. I've been. I mean, I'm not professionally trained by any means. I'm all self-taught, but I've painted and been an artist since I was about 6.
I don't believe in calling someone an artist just because they're professionally trained. Like for me, I got a degree in art and in exercise science, and then my graduate degree in exercise physiology.
Oh, that's so cool.
But like my art degree didn't teach me how to do art. I mean, I was passionate about art, and I have been an artist my whole life.
Like, what's your thing? What do you do?
At the moment, I was and then I was a makeup artist for 15 years.
I love it.
But I was self-taught. But I mean, art, if you're artistic, you're artistically inclined. But the interesting thing is I would be on one end of the campus for my art classes and the other end of the campus for my exercise science classes. And then bodybuilding, if you think about it, it's a combination of art with the body. Because I mean, really, I treat my body like it's a work of art. I mean, when I'm training, I'm like creating what I want to create. And I feel like that's one of the things that has led me to success, because I see my body like artistically in a way that I think.
One thing I'll say is you are very aesthetic, by the way.
Thank you.
You've done very well. You have an awesome physique.
That's my art.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of art do you do?
Appreciate
this is the art that I do.
The work I know it takes to do in that. Arnold really kind of leaned into that when they asked him about that. Like, why are you doing this? Why would you? It's really strange. It's just the way that I am like a sculptor, but outlet. With a human body.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a statue. I'm going to make an actual person look a certain way. So yeah, I love that. I have always, for me, I think the art of expression and physicality that I love is more so on performance.
Yeah.
Like for me, because I'm not a bodybuilding coach. Of course I do that, but it's much more so I love seeing people go from can't stand upright, torn labrum to now they're running back in track and field. Like something like that.
That's so cool that you look at that like art. But you can appreciate, if you're a real artist, you know that if you want to create something, it takes time. No real artist thinks that they could just go and sketch something out in a couple hours. So, I mean, to enter a project that you want to do, you have to be willing to commit to it, and so I just haven't really picked up I haven't picked up a paintbrush in forever, because this has become my work of art, and that's just kind of.
That's also why I think it's very hard because most coaches would probably fall into this category whether they know it or not. They are artists trying to work on a canvas in the form of a person. That's why it's very difficult when your person doesn't have the patience to actually succeed, when they stick with you for 2 months and then quit.
Yeah.
Well, I just invest. It's like the way it feels like you asked me to start painting a statue. I got up to the waist, and then the statue ran out of my yard and never came back. Like, that's the way that it feels. It's like, okay, well, there goes my project. I invested my energy in that project, and now it's gone.
Right.
And that sucks.
It does. Coaching people is hard,
Yeah.
because it's not, you don't have control over the situation. You know, you are the mentor to somebody else's success, and their success is 100% their own. And I think that's also interesting to kind of side topic about coaches is I feel like we see this a lot. You see a coach work with an athlete or a recreational gym goer and take so much credit for that success, like, look at my client, look at what I did, look at how I did this with my client, and my me, and it's so, that is such an odd thing for me, because in my experience, I love being a part of someone's journey. I love being the mentor to someone's journey and helping give them the tools that they need to succeed. But ultimately, if you take the credit for somebody's success, and that means that you have to be willing to take the credit for people that are not following through, that are
Hmm.
not getting results, because you can't just have it one way.
Oh yeah.
So if you are a good coach, you're going to understand that you're going to have people on both ends of the spectrum. People that take it, run with it, they're talented, they're amazing, phenoms that are going to make you look good.
Hmm.
And then you're going to have a group of people who are not going to follow the program, they're not going to get good results. And if you invest your persona too much into the success, then you're going to end up absorbing the all of it, right? Like, then when somebody does bad, then they're going to blame you because you took so much credit for their success when they were successful. Now when they're doing bad, then you're going to take the fact that you're going to get blamed, you're going to get, it's a whole world that is so interesting to me, being a coach. But ultimately, I guess the long story short, to say that I think that when somebody's successful, when somebody does get results, I think that you know it's 100% their world.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I think as it goes, when you're a coach, you need to set yourself up for the best
Mm,
possible outcome. As
yeah.
far as the success of your client, the
Yeah.
success of your client is, while you may not be able to take all the credit for it, it is a lot inherent on you.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the way that people think. The way I would explain it is you need to, and this is kind of a shift in the conversation to more of a business
Yeah.
discussion. You need to set yourself up as a coach with the clients that are going to give you the best chance at
Yeah.
success.
It's a good guy.
And a good way to do that, as blunt and as brash as this is charge them more money.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Get more from them as
Yeah.
far as an investment. So I know this person just paid for 6 months of training for me.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Yeah.
as a coach, can now, I am guaranteed
Yeah.
that unless there's some kind of a life
Yeah.
catastrophe, this person just paid for 6 months up front. This
Yeah.
person is definitely going to stick it out with
Yeah.
me. And at least I
Yeah.
know in 6 months, they're going to see an amazing transfer,
Yeah.
whatever, whoever they
Yeah.
are.
And of course, I mean, I guess I should say you feel definitely a sense of pride when somebody is super successful with your guidance, and you definitely feel like you're a
Mhm.
part of that. I always feel like I'm a part of that.
Oh, it's
I
my
guess
favorite thing in the world.
I guess I'm more so talking about, like, so because if we're on the topic of social media,
Yeah.
I'm more so talking about like the social media aspect of coaching, where people take the
Ah.
credit online and like in posts, and like the way people talk about the success, the behind the scenes, there's always going to be that feeling of pride and just feeling that feel good
Hmm.
kind of camaraderie that you gain when you're, having that, mutual dynamic when
Yeah.
you're helping somebody and they're getting results. I guess if we're on the topic of social media, that's more so what I'm talking about, that I think is such an interesting kind of world that we live in, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I mean, because it's undeniable. I mean, before and
yeah.
after transformation photos from clients,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the best ways a coach can grow. If you can
Yeah.
get your hands on half a dozen good before and after pictures of your clients, and you can post that and
Yeah.
run ads and do it, like you should be good to go. Like you should have
Yeah.
clients kind of forever.
Right.
Um, but I hear what you're saying too. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
more to it than that would
You
lead you
know,
to believe.
what's interesting about that is when social media first started, I was doing that. I was posting transformations
Mhm.
of clients, amazing transformations, because I've been doing this for a long time.
Mhm.
However,
Even before social media kind of
before social
blew up.
media,
Yeah, you
oh
were still
yeah,
doing it. Yeah.
yeah, I was working at Stanford for 6 years, and I actually started a 12-week. People don't know this, but like the science, there is a science behind 12 weeks. Like, it's become a like a time that people just apply to their programs. But I mean, I study human behavior change, and
Yeah.
it takes
21 days to break a habit. Is that what
about
they say?
it
Yeah.
takes about 3 months for someone to make a full change,
Yeah.
right? So I actually created a 12-week system at Stanford, and I taught all my coaches and all my trainers that system.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you know what, I wanted to branch off, and I wanted to do it myself. And so I got so many clients right off the bat, and I mean, we took off with our online business. Nobody was really doing it.
Yeah.
It was like so new, so novel, and it was crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it's so interesting because as we continued, and as we kind of kept seeing that that coaching thing take off, it was like we were you know people didn't really understand what that 3 months. And I just lost my train of thought. I was totally like, I totally was had a, and I say something, and
It
then I'll,
happens to us
oh
all,
my gosh,
believe
like I
me.
was I was like totally like on a total path there. Like,
The importance of
yeah.
3 months being the first time that somebody would
Well,
ever look for
oh, I remember.
results.
Okay, I
Yeah.
remember what I was gonna say.
Did I
Okay,
get you?
so yes, you got
Mhm.
me. You got me. Okay, so I was posting transformations,
Yeah.
right? Before and after. Interestingly enough, okay, I was attracting people who were the worst type of clients, because you see a huge transformation, you don't see the in between, right?
Mhm.
So you're attracting people that want, like, it's almost like they think they're going in for plastic surgery, because I actually stopped posting those crazy transformations where you'd see somebody lose a bunch of weight and look incredible on the after.
Would you put a
Because
timeline associated with the before
yes,
and they still would be
because people
really?
who haven't started the process yet,
Yeah.
they don't there's no way for them to understand the type of process it takes from start to finish, right?
Sure.
So trying to find more creative ways for people to understand what type of road this is going to be,
Yeah.
that has been always a challenge, and something that I've been wanting to take on, because I think that in order to help somebody, like you said, um, who wants to have success, who is going to be set up for success, I wasn't feeling like that was setting the majority of people up for success who were coming to me,
Mhm.
right? You had,
And when they were coming to you, would they stop prematurely? Is that how
I
you
mean,
would define that they
not everyone, but
but
there were
some?
unrealistic expectations that
Sure.
were really hard to mitigate. And then how
Meaning they didn't know how hard the workouts would be.
they didn't realize how long the path might be for them.
Got it.
Some of them,
Got it.
it depended. Person to person, it's always a little bit of a different challenge for each person,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
everybody has different roadblocks, right? But I think regardless of what those roadblocks are,
That's really cool. Wow.
yes, thank you.
Wow.
but
Look at the
but
definition.
I mean, the thing is, you see those are good transformations. Those are
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. Like, some were crazy, but you see something like this,
Whoa. How
and
long was that?
you don't see, that was probably about 6 months. This was probably like eight
Let's see.
months.
Okay. See, because with these pictures, I hear what you're saying
Yeah,
because you're not saying 6 month transformation before and after. You're
yeah,
just saying before and after.
yeah. And this is from 2018. So, but
I get where the dilemma would occur because you're right. People would see this and be like, "Oh, psh, sign me up for that.
yes,
Look at that. That looks amazing."
but see, you don't realize, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Hmm.
So at the time, you feel like you're doing good. You want to showcase these amazing transformations. And I'm not discouraging anyone from doing this. I don't even
Yeah.
think that this is necessarily a bad strategy. All I'm
No,
saying is my
oh,
experience. So
that's great.
the only thing I'm saying is just from my experience. And I
Hmm.
think if somebody's been coaching for a long time, it's probably a good idea for me to explain my experience, and not to say that this is a bad strategy or that anybody should stop doing it, but just in my experience, when I would post, transformations frequently early on in the social media days, I was getting so many clients, and it was great, right? But not everybody, and I want to feel like I was being responsible.
Hmm.
I want to feel like I'm doing right by everybody. I want to be
Sure.
responsible. I don't want anyone to have a false sense of like what they could possibly, because I don't know everyone's limitations. Some people might have a fast transformation. Some people might have more roadblocks in their way.
Yeah.
They might have more challenges. They may get off work at 8 o'clock every night and only be able to go to gym twice a week. Like, I always say, your commitment, your expectation has to meet. I've always maintained this, but if your expectation is up here, but you can only give me this commitment, then your expectation needs to drop to where your commitment is, right? If
Or your
you're
commitment level needs to go up
if
to your
you yeah,
expectation.
exactly. If you were saying no, I will take nothing, so give me the program that gives me this level of results, then your commitment like has to be there, right? This is the commitment that is going to be required for you to get to that level. So
But medication prescribed and never taken does nothing. That's, the best program in the entire world. This
right,
is why I'll be honest. I don't do meal plans. Now I
yeah,
don't prep
yeah,
people for shows, so I should make that clear. But I don't do meal plans with any of my
yeah,
clients.
yeah,
I'm like, listen, I can sit down with you, give me
yeah,
10 minutes, and
yeah,
I'll walk you through how you should eat.
yeah,
But guess what? I'm betting it doesn't matter what I tell you. I'm betting it doesn't matter if I were to calculate the most incredible micro count nutrient meal plan in the whole and give it to you,
yeah,
you wouldn't follow it because you have a bad relationship with food,
right,
not the food itself.
right,
And that's just one example, but that to me, that's what I have bumped into
yeah,
a lot of the times is that.
yeah. And I will say that I think pretty much anybody who's getting started in a program should follow some type of structure, but maybe not, you know, prescribed by somebody else. Maybe start on your own with some type of system. Anything's going to work if you're consistent with it, right?
Especially in the beginning when you're totally going from
If
scratch.
if you're going from scratch, but some structure is always going to help somebody be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
In the long run, I would always encourage people to get to a point where you don't have to have so much crazy hyper focused structure in order to be successful. Like something that's a little, I hate the word intuitive because I don't like terminology. I don't like
Yeah.
implying things, but I mean, it's a term that I hate that it's been stolen from my vocabulary, so I'm going to use it anyway. But just being intuitive about what you're eating is so healthy because you know your body, you understand it, you're paying attention to what's happening to it. You don't deprive yourself, you're enjoying things, and you naturally choose healthy foods. That's like the ideal place to be, right? But to get there, if you're not there right now, if you don't have any structure, you're not gonna naturally choose the best choices.
Yeah, your
You gotta
intuition sucks in the
set,
beginning.
yeah,
You also probably have
right,
addictions and things that might be
yeah,
underlying. Like I
yeah,
said, I've known people for 40 years have
yeah,
told me that for 40 years they've never eaten the way that they wanted to. They've never looked the way they
yeah,
wanted to. They have a problem with their
yeah.
food. And it's the same with training.
And if you give somebody like that, like I know there was a period, I mean, we could talk about like fads that have kind of come and gone, but like if you tell someone like that, okay, have this many grams of protein, this many grams of carbs, this many grams of fat, and then eat whatever you want. If that person has not created a healthy attachment to the right kinds of foods,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're going to choose the things that they're already eating, maybe in moderation,
Mm-hmm.
which is not necessarily a good thing if somebody hasn't adopted healthy behavior. So some type of structure with specific things early on is probably good, but
Simple
you
structure.
don't need to have a coach create that
Simple
for you.
structure.
There's so many resources now. There's so much so much
A
information.
text message. I could send you
Right.
a text message with 4 rules so that
Yeah.
if you followed them,
Yeah.
you'd be better off than you are now. Most of the
Yeah.
people are never going to step on stage. They don't need to count their macros.
Yeah.
They need simple, practical habits they can follow that
Give me
will
one rule.
lean toward carnivore.
Nice. Rule number 2.
Eat fruit, not veggies.
3.
Count your portion sizes with the palm of your hand.
All right, we have one more.
4,
Yeah.
be consistent.
Okay, there you go. Bam.
A simple fifth one would be if you're going to cheat, have one cheat meal per week. Not a cheat
Nice.
day, a cheat meal. You get one. If
Yeah.
you follow those 5 things and don't deviate, guess what? You're probably going to get where you want to, but people won't do it.
Yeah.
And almost always, if they truly tracked what they
Yeah.
ate all the time and came in with a report card and sat it down, I'd be like, okay, you violated rules 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good job. How do you feel you did? And that's the honest answer. Most
Yeah.
people are never getting where they
Yeah.
want because they're not doing what they know they need to do.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. It's hard to get a hold of those people though, because on one hand, they've already become aware that a change needs to be made. They're clearly coming to you. So they've already taken action. They've prepared, but the follow through is an interesting thing, right? Because people don't like to be told what to do. They don't like to be told that they're doing things wrong.
Mhm.
They're so set in their ways. They want to be able to do it their way, but get the results that you can help them get. And they want to manipulate the system and make it the way they want it to be. But it's like, then I go back to that commitment expectation. If you put that up there and you dial it up, then, you know,
This is why
can't fight it.
motivation sucks.
I know.
Motivation sucks, man.
I know.
Like you need
Yeah.
discipline. You don't need motivation.
Yeah.
You can turn on YouTube and get motivation anytime you want.
Non-negotiables. Like, what are your non-negotiables? You know,
Yeah.
there's, for me, it's like, if I'm traveling, if I'm doing something that throws me off of my rhythm or whatever,
Mhm.
I have like non-negotiable things that I do not stray from no matter what. And it's like you get to the point where you almost get anxiety if you
If you don't
stray.
do it. Yeah.
But it becomes part of your it just becomes a part of your natural
Mhm.
way of living, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, I think, it's important for you to live out what your expectation is for your clients. Like you need to be able to tell them with a straight face, like, no, actually you can eat healthy if you have to eat out on the road. I eat healthy when I eat out on the road every single time I go out. Well, how do you do it? Oh, it's very simple. You just do protein style, you get rid of the bun.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to actually answer these questions, which is hilarious because when you answer them, it'll usually frustrate them because they're not happy that you actually have the answers to these questions.
Well,
But
I mean, okay. So I will say that if you are in really good shape and you have been like in a maintenance place with your body, I don't always eat perfectly when I go out to, when I'm traveling, whatever. That's that, but I don't stress about it because I know that it's not going to affect me. Because my body's not like fluctuating all over the place.
yeah.
It's you want to be there. That's where you want to be. You don't want to feel like if you eat a sandwich, you're going to gain 5 pounds the next day. That's not a good place to be. So
Sure, but I mean, for me, I don't know the last time that I ate a sandwich.
really,
Like a real sandwich with
like a real sandwich,
crust and bread and
you eat a
like everything.
sandwich.
I don't eat. For me,
Are you a
everything I eat,
carnivore?
I'm
Carnivore
not.
diet?
I'm not. Yes,
Yeah.
I suppose you could say I'm closer to keto than carnivore because I eat fruit and meat and
That's
dairy.
good.
That's what I eat everywhere I go. If I go out, I can do that still. You
Yeah.
can do that almost everywhere you go
You
unless
do.
someone drags you to Cane's.
Yeah, you
Like,
can easily get like a stick of cheese and a piece of beef jerky like at any gas station if you had to.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can fast.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a situation where you're like, I just cannot, like you can fast. All of this stuff is not as
I do that
mandatory
too.
as people make it out to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, everything you just said is pretty much what I do too, but I don't stress out about it. If I want something, I mean, there's an option for me to eat healthy, but if I go, you know what, I really want to have a muffin right now, and I'm out and about, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna have a muffin. Like,
Yeah.
I want to have a muffin. So, but obviously, my normal MO is like if I find myself at a gas station, I'm grabbing a piece of beef jerky and maybe some cheese.
It's also
whatever.
why I encourage my clients to not skip the one meal per week that you eat whatever you want. I encourage them, like, listen, if you're going to Sunday brunch, eat whatever you want. Have pancakes. It's one meal. That's fine.
Do you like pancakes?
Yeah, of course. I love pancakes. I love
What are your favorite
waffles.
kind of pancakes?
Well, I mean, really any kind of pancakes. But if it's pancakes, it's got to have a ton of fruit on it. It's got to have butter on it. Yes.
Pancakes.
Yes. Blueberries within the pancakes. I like blueberries within the pancakes, not on the pancakes. Because then they come fresh and that's annoying.
No, I know.
Yeah. No. But for me, honestly, that really isn't even the way that I cheat. Like for me, if you ask me like, what's your one cheat? What would you cheat? How would you do it?
Steak and a baked potato.
No, that's not cheating. That's eating all those things. Like steak? Oh no, steak's right on.
Steak and a baked potato?
Well, I don't eat I don't really like
With
baked
butter?
potato. No, it's not. No, I don't like baked potato. Even if I'm cheating. No, I want pizza.
I don't like baked potato either.
I want pizza. I want wings. Pizza and wings. Pizza and wings. Not like Domino's. No, I want I want to go to an artisanal Italian dude with a mustache and give me like a really good pizza and amazing wings.
I'm going to make you a really good sandwich. You need a sandwich?
Yeah. For me, I mean, if I was going to do a sandwich,
now I know that you're open to
I don't like bread. I don't like bread. I don't like bread, so that's not.
Crust.
I do thin crust burnt like a cracker with a ton of toppings and cheese.
Okay.
Like, and it's even better if I pick up the pizza and it like folds and melts.
Okay.
That's the best thing in the whole world.
Okay. I like Chicago deep dish. We can't be friends.
No, I can't stand.
Just
I
kidding,
cannot
I'm kidding.
stand Chicago. You might as well just like go to bed and start your whole day over. I'll be in a coma if I eat deep dish, and I don't like it because it's just bread. It's the same with. Okay, I will
I'm
extend.
Italian. I love bread and sauce.
I will extend an olive branch for pasta if it's like
Oh, yeah.
a white sauce, seafood,
White sauce.
white sauce.
No.
I don't like red sauce.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
I like white sauce, like a fettuccine alfredo with seafood. Give me those with like a ton of seafood. It's got to have mussels and octopus and like all that stuff in there. I'll eat the whole bowl.
I love that, but with red sauce.
Really? Yeah. No.
Sauce on the side. Oh, wow.
It's good to know you're Italian, though. That actually, I can see that now. I feel that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So people say, what's the first thing that you crave? Like, I don't even think about what I want to eat after the show because I'm so focused. Yeah. I'm so beyond, like, what am I going to cheat with? Like, I've been competing for too long to even think about that kind of stuff. But when I do have the aftermath and I sit down for, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what sounds really good is like this bread and pasta sauce. Like, that's what I crave.
That's what you crave?
If I want to really like go
sounds
crazy,
pretty good to me.
That's like my.
If it's white.
No, red.
If it's white.
Sorry, white. Red.
Okay.
I mean, red.
That.
You have me.
Like if I was to form my post-stage meal, it would be probably a bowl of seafood pasta like we talked about.
That sounds good.
And then you need to provide me like an entire case of Krispy Kreme donuts.
Krispy Kreme, yes.
Just glazed. I don't want any of that shit on it. I just want the crispy, like with the white. I could eat the entire box without stopping, throw up and eat another box. I love those more than anything. That to me is probably the thing where it's like, and you can't. It's like, you can't eat a whole box of Krispy Kreme donuts. That's insane. But I totally could.
Isn't it crazy how you can learn so much about somebody by just like listening to the foods that they like and just the passion with which they talk about these foods?
Yeah.
I mean, this is part of our industry. This is part of our, our problem and what everybody's always trying to tackle, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and that goes back to discipline because we all are connected to foods that taste good, that we love, that we're passionate about.
People think we hate food. I mean, people think like, oh, you must not like food. I'm like, I love food. What are you talking about?
Food is
No, I just like looking the way I look and performing the way, and I don't want to be like, oh, I need a nap after every time I eat. Like
but you know why you're so passionate about those things? Because you don't have them all the time. That's why that's why you get so excited about it. You're not like, you feel I'm Italian. You're not, if you were eating, the pizza that you're so passionate about, if you had that every day, you wouldn't be excited about it. You would be like, it's just another meal. Can you imagine thinking about something like that as just another meal? But the level that you get, I tell people, like, if you ever want food to taste so good, just deprive yourself of it for like 2 weeks straight. And then have it, and it will never taste so good. It'll
absolutely.
be the best thing you've ever had. I mean, that's probably,
Yeah. No, I completely agree. 100%. If somebody wanted to work with you or get in touch with you or find out more about what you're doing or your coaching programs, where would they go?
They could go to cyberbodyshop.com. So that's Cyber Body Shop. I don't know why. People spell funky sometimes.
There it is. It's linked on your IG too, right?
Yeah. So cyberbodyshop.com and then
Fortino. Of course you're Italian. Yeah. How did I not put that together in my head?
I'm a Fortino.
Fortino.
Yes.
And your Instagram is what? Wendy Fortino?
Yes. So,
outstanding. Great.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was so much fun.
Yeah.
What a great little chat. That was awesome, man. I love talking about food. It's like my favorite subject on here. We never talk about food, like ever. That's great. What is up, everybody? I hope you enjoyed that episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. Wendy Fortino. That was a lot of fun. Man, I'm hungry. If you watched that episode, you're going to know why. If you guys want to see more episodes like that, I think you should go and click right there.